Hi, it's Chrissy here. Third time lucky, I hope. I haven't been able to get my camera to go the way that I wanted to, so I've just had to do it on a different angle today. So I'm sorry if you're watching this and you're thinking, why is the screen so small? Anyway, it's Chrissy here from the Creative Eclectic. Welcome to Tuesday Night Lights. Hope you're having a fabulous week so far. Today I am doing a new by request project. So some of you may have seen on my Facebook in the last week or so, or actually last Friday, a card that I made for my really good friend Alison for her 60th birthday. And yes, and so I am going to show you how to make that card tonight. Hi Jody. Oh, for some reason I can't see my screen at all. Oh, I can just... Alright. I don't know what's going on with my technology today. Oh. Anyway, I'm going to hope that there's people there and there's people watching and that they can see me. If you can see my screen, Jody and Glenda and the other Glenda, just tell me you can see a piece of yellow cardstock. Okay. I don't know what's going on with technology. I hope everyone's having a great day. Some days technology just doesn't want to work, does it? So, alright, all I can see is a blank screen. Oh, it's cold there tonight, Jody. Okay, I can just see a black screen, so I'm going to have to stand up while I do this so I can see that everybody is, so I can see your comments. You can see the yellow. It's a thin picture. Yes, it is a thin picture because I can't get it to rotate. Alright, so I'm making a fancy fold card. As if you saw my Facebook post on Friday, I did a really pretty fancy fold for my friend Alison's 60th, and I'm doing a variation of that fold just because I had a lot of people ask about it. So the card I'm making is will fit in a Stampin' Up long envelope. Refresh my screen. How do I do that, Jody? I don't know how to do that. Anyway, so I'll just stand up and do it. So this is the envelope that you can get from Stampin' Up, and I wanted to make a card to fit in that that's nice and snugly. So, first up, now the card I'm making today won't be exactly the same as the card I did for Alison because I don't have any of that paper left. So first up, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that is hang on, let me get my measurements. It is 8 1/4, so almost an A4 by, is that right? No. It's 8 1/4 by 11. All right. And it'll actually go a different way. It'll end up being that way, but we're doing it this going with technology. So You'll need that 8 1/4 by 11. You'll also need 2 pieces of matching coordinating cardstock, which are 8 1/4 by 2 3/4. Then a piece of card that goes on top of that. Actually, no, they are 8 3/8 by 2 7/8, and that is 8 1/4 by 2 3/4. And this one is 8 1/8 by 2 5/8. So you'll see that they will all layer. Okay. All right. So let's just go through these measurements again. So this one here is 8 1/4 by 11. The next one, these 2 yellow bits, are 8 3/8 by 2 7/8. This grey bit is 8 1/4 by 2 3/4, so it's just that little bit smaller. And then the DSP, so this is the front section of your card, and that is 8 1/8 by 2 5/8. So really what you need to do is just work out what size you want your card to be. Now this will fit in an envelope. It's still a little bit narrower than the envelope, but it will bulk up a little bit. You can make them wider, but you're going to have to adjust all your measurements if you do make them wider. Okay, so while we've got this, this is the back. While we've got this little piece here, we're just going to stick those 3 pieces together. Okay. All right. Just to get that out of the way, and then we're not having to worry about that. So I'm just going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue, and if I'm not responding to your comments, just please forgive me, because I've had to sit down and I can't see the comments. Because everything is not going according to plan today. I have my laptop crash on me while I was editing. I've done all sorts of things today, but I didn't lose my editing, but I still am probably about 5 hours behind on editing, but that's okay. All right, so hoping you can see that. Yeah, I'm going to stick this bit on the front. So this will be the front of our card, right? So I'm using the paper from that goes with the Playing in the Rain stamp set. So I think it's the Rain or Shine Suite. And I wanted to show you that when you do a fancy fold, you don't have to stick with flowers and things like that. Okay. All right. So Glenda and Glenda, I hope you're well too. I'm pretty sure that it's not cold where either of you two are today. Okay. So that's the front part of it. We're going to put that aside. We're going to bring in our next part. But before we do that, let me tell you what else you're going to need. You're going to need some different squares of cardstock. So if you have the Stylish Shapes dies, you can cut your patterned paper. So I needed 3 pieces with a one. I'll put them across here so you can see them. 3 pieces with a pattern, and I've got 3 pieces of Flirty Flamingo cardstock, so they're going to layer. Oh, you're in Adelaide? Oh, it's not that hot. It's not hot. Oh, okay. And then I've got 4 pieces of this other pattern paper, and these are also, I'm pretty sure that's called Stylish Shapes. Okay. Yes, it's called Stylish Shapes. So I just cut it with the second largest die. Right. Okay. And then I have, I found another square die, and so I cheated and I cut the next size up in the square dies. So I've got 4 pieces of old olive and 4 pieces of that. I've then got 5 pieces of smoky slate and 5 pieces of pattern paper, right? So we're going to put those aside for now. Now, like, they're all very garish colours. So, and I am sorry I don't still have the card to show you what I'm basing this on, but I thought I should let Alison keep her card for at least a week before I borrowed it. Now, put those all over to one side. The other things that you will need is you will need a piece of cardstock for your belly band. So this is a, oh, I don't even know how wide it is. It's just a scrap that I had. I think it's about 9 inches long. Let's just measure that. Yeah, it's 9 inches long, about 9 inches long, and it is around about 2 1/4 inches wide. 2 1/4? Yeah. Okay. And you'll need some things to decorate the front as well. I used the Fabulous Florets to cut out some pattern paper. Oops. And a piece of Flirty Flamingo. I also hand cut a little oval, which I'm going to put behind those just so that it makes it easier to stick them together. And that's a little turtle that I hand cut to go on the belly band. You'll also need a sentiment and maybe a layer. So every time I make this, it'll be different. So this is the stamp set that I use, the Playing in the Rain stamp set, and it's part of the Rain or Shine suite. And the dies I used are from the Fabulous Florets Bundle. And I used this die here. Okay, this gets a lot of use in my craft room. I'm hoping you can hoping you can see that. Okay, I haven't filmed like this for a long time, so all right, so we're going to need our paper trimmer and with our scoring blades. If you don't have a paper trimmer, use a simply scored tool or something like that. if you don't have one with scoring blades. Otherwise, if you've got a stylus like is on the take your pick tool, I believe if you turn, no, there's another little attachment for your take your pick tool. You can use that to run down there. Okay, that's just a little handy tip. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some scoring. We're going to make the base of our card. Now, I hope I can't see who's here. Okay. Let me just stand up and make sure that's in the middle. So the first thing we're going to score on this short edge, we're going to score it at 2 3/4 to make sure you've got it nice and snug, and then we're going to score it at 5 1/2. So each of the 3 sections will be 2 3/4 wide. So you'll end up, when you finish scoring, with 12 squares that are 2 3/4 square. So you're going to turn it around and you're going to score at 2 3/4. Then you're going to move it along and score at 5 1/2. And you're going to open it out again, and we're going to score it at 8 1/4. Okay. So what I like to do here, just so I can see my lines better, is grab my bone folder, if you can ever find one, and fold on all of those lines. I don't know where mine is. I hate sharing my workspace with someone. I've lost all sorts of things today. So I've scored, I've folded on all of those lines. Okay. So there's two more scores that you need to do. So you need to, if you can see here, I might just use my pencil. So I've got my score line, I've got a score line here and a score line here. So what I want to do is I want to score downwards between those 2 score lines, and it will be at 1 3/8, so just less than 1 1/2. Now let me just close that up. And for some reason, I am really nervous about doing this live. So I've lined this up with the 1 3/8 inches. I'm just going to score up to that line. Okay. Doesn't matter if you go a little bit above, because it'll... Now turn my cardstock around, and I'm going to do the same thing, 1 3/8 inches between those 2 score lines again. Okay. Now, here's where it can be a little bit tricky. You want to fold that score line, right? Now, what I did, and I've already done it because I couldn't be sure that I was going to get it right on camera, is I cut from that score line there along between the two score lines. So you get something that looks like this, right? Okay. If you aren't confident cutting between the three score lines, what you can do is you can cut it into 3 bits. It works the same. It's just a little bit harder to, or it might be trickier for you to put it together. So that is the base of my card. Does that make sense? Please tell me it makes sense. Okay. I'm hoping that makes sense to people. Does it make sense? Having so many problems with technology. Yes, it makes sense. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, we've got this concertina-y thing, right? So, it doesn't look so hard so far. So now the next bit. You know, the longest part of this is actually cutting everything out before you do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep this bit as a template that I did before. And I'm going to bring in those little squares. So how I did mine, and I am going to turn it around, and I'm sorry if it's skinny, is I picked out what colours were in my paper. So I know that this paper has a blue, and it has a grey, it has a dark grey, and it has a green in it. And so I picked out the colours that would go with that. I also picked out some other colours that are in it, like this flirty flamingo, and I picked that colour just for you, Jodie, because I had a feeling you might be watching. Okay. And this works really well when you don't have a directional pattern, but if you have a pattern that's got a direction that has to go a certain way, just follow how it is supposed to go. So, like with the dogs, if they're facing, looking that way, I would have them more to the right of my page. If they're looking right, I would have them more to the left of my page. So it's just, it looks more natural. Okay, so I've got these bits here, and I'm going to start sticking it together. Now, remember I said I had extras, extra pieces. So I'm going to put those extra pieces aside just for now, and we'll get the main bits stuck together. So this is probably the most boring part of the video. I've got my little silicone craft mat. I'm hoping you can see that. My pleasure, Jodie. I'm glad that I could do something that... So, if you see, I've cut these out with the Stylish Shapes dies. If you cut them out with a square die, I use the old... yeah, it is a lot of cutting out. But if you cutting it out with the dies, it's much more precise. Like there's a lot less room. Like even though you think that you might be cutting it perfectly, cutting it with dies is so much easier. It is a lot of colour. So I use, oh hi Sue, welcome. I use the Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue. Now you can get that from Stampin' Up. You can also get it from via me or your demonstrator, or you can get it from Bunnings or Eclectic or any good craft store really. Okay. And yeah, and it's a two-ended glue, so it's got a narrow tip and it's got a it has got a wide tip. Now I use, when I'm using designer series paper, I use a wide tip so I don't get any ridges in my paper, glue ridges in the paper. So that's a lot of cutting, but it's worth it. And certainly when people see it and they go, oh wow, I want to know how to make that, it makes my little heart happy. And the beauty of it is that you can cut a few things, like if you use your dies, you can cut enough for a couple of cards at once. So, oops, my fingers are sticking together. It's one thing I don't like is that I get glue on my fingers constantly. And I was prepping for coffee, cake and cards tomorrow, and I have got glue on my fingers due to that. So if you're local in Parkinson and you're coming to coffee, cake and cards, that is tomorrow from 10:30 at Algester Sports Club. We're doing some simple stamping tomorrow, so I'm really excited about that. I'm just going to wipe off that excess glue. Now, when you're doing it, it's much easier to stick all your pieces of pattern paper on first and then glue it up together. Now I tried to have some sort of a theme, so I wanted to have an odd number of different squares. So you'll see that I have 4 of one type, but I have 3 of the other types. And just think it looks more pleasing. But you could do every single square different if you wanted to. Okay. So I quite like these little daisies on the, I think that's what they are, on the pattern paper. Just think it's quite whimsical and fun, but you do need to be mindful. This is a directional pattern, whereas the other side isn't. And I had to use what paper I had left, because I shared some of my paper, and so I only had half packs, and I've used quite a lot of this pack of paper. All right. Oops. And you'll see I don't go all the way to the edge of my designer series paper either, because I want to make sure it doesn't ooze out. Although, because I'm not using stamped images and I'm just using a pattern paper, and I love this paper because it's real. I don't know if you can see it, it's really shiny and you can feel the difference in the paper. So try and line these things up to the center. I wasted a bit of paper with this one, die cutting these images out. Because I had to try and fit them in the right spot to get the whole image. But I think that they worked out okay. They look pretty cute to me. And I love this little piggy. So this is actually, I think they're all the same pieces of paper, but there was so much in this Rain or Shine suite that I loved. And this paper was one of them. It was just fun, and I don't know how come I've started to make many more cutesy sort of cards. All right, so I need to do a big shout out to Kim Heath, because she showed me her, it was different measurements, but it was her version of this card. So now I've got my pattern paper on their layers. We're going to stick them all onto the card. I'm going to keep those aside. Let's do the easy, let's go for the quick wins first, hey? Now, because this will be folding up, do not layer it on dimensionals. It needs to be flat. You can make it nice, and you can make the bit that goes on the belly band, make that raised up, but the inside of the card, you do not want to have it raised up. Okay, you want it to be nice and flat so the card closes well. Now you can add sentiments and cutouts and die cuts and stickers, whatever you like on the inside. Just don't make it bulky. I think that I've got that one in the wrong place. I have a couple of score lines where I accidentally scored beforehand. So I need to make sure that I'm not sticking it to the wrong spot. But it's coming together nicely. So we've got mystery stamping on Saturday. The clues have gone up. Well, to the best of my knowledge, they were loaded up on the weekend. So if you're free at Saturday morning, pop on and craft along at home. The first clue is our materials list, and you use whatever you have on hand. I'm looking forward to this one because I was inspired by my friend Sherry in the US with this card, or with the card that we're doing for mystery stamping. And I think it's lots of fun. I think you're going to like it. And it's not a difficult card. It is 10 steps as usual. It might actually be even less. So we're popping it all together. So this is the inside of the card. Now, if you do it in, decide you can't manage to just cut between school lines and you do it in strips, it works out just the same, just as well. And Alison's card that I made for her 6th year, which was on Facebook on Friday, it was made in 3 different strips, and its measurements are slightly different to this because I didn't die cut. I cut everything by hand, and then I thought, when I was prepping for this Facebook Live, that is absolutely crazy to do this by hand if you've got a die that does the same job. All right, we're nearly there. Now, oh, you can't see the list. Well, I will have to go back and check, Jodie. It was scheduled to go live. Maybe it didn't. As I said, I have gremlins in my computer and on my iPad today and the last few days. And I have to be honest, I haven't checked because my husband had a very rare 4 days off in a row, and he has finished the paving out the back, and so we, although Thursday I spent the day videoing, we took advantage of him having some time off and celebrated birthdays with friends and went to the beach, and it was just awesome. Okay, so we're getting there. So you're probably wondering, what are these 2 blank strips, right? So those 2 blank strips are these bits that we had earlier. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to fold it in half and cut it on that fold line. So it's probably 1 and maybe 1 3/8, I think, is about half. Might be even a little bit less. Let's go with 1 3/8. That seems to be about right. When we're going to cut that bit in half. Right. Oh, I need a new blade. And we're going to do the same with our green bit. 1 3/8 is about that. That's about right. All right. So I'm going to cut those in half. I'm going to pop them to one side, and now I've got these little squares. I'm going to cut them in half as well. All right. So that will be, it'll probably be around about 3 centimeters, just under 2.5, I think. Just under 1.5 inches. I think that's about right. It doesn't have to be exact, all right? And I'm going to cut this one in half as well. Now I could get out a ruler and be precise and measure it, but no one's really going to notice, okay? as long as they're close, right? Now the thing, well, that one's a little bit off, but just trim a little bit off that one. Maybe 1/8 of an inch off it, if that. Hopefully it's not going to tear. Okay. So, get rid of our trimmer out the way. So now we need to work out what we're going to put where. So these have got half of their square is going to be stitched. Okay, so I'm sticking these halves on the green one. Now you could, I had intended to put a different pattern again with just some umbrellas on it. Now these will be we'll need to line up centered from top to bottom, but along the same, along flush with the edge. It just looks a little bit better when you do it like that. Okay. So when you are dealing with things that have a stitched edge, you need to make sure that the correct part, see that one's a bit bigger. I didn't cut that one exactly in half, but you get what I mean, don't you? Let's cut a little bit off that so it looks similar to the other one. I'll just cut a little bit off. So it's probably better if you do measure them when you cut them in half, and you actually do cut them properly in half. All right, everyone's still with me? Hopefully you are. That'll do. That looks pretty close. Okay. And we're going to stick these little pink ones on. So even when you fold it in half, if you haven't lined it up properly, it's not going to look like it's in half. All right. You can make these a bit narrower, or if you wanted to. I just use the die cuts, so I have them all the same height, but you do what you want to do with it. Remember, these videos are just to help you get some ideas and give you some confidence to go, well, if Chrissy can do this and not totally stuff it up, then there is hope for me and I can do this too. Okay, that's the way that I sort of work. I love it when people show me things that they've tried, and this one here I haven't lined up exactly with the edge. Now if you didn't want to line it up with the edge, that's okay too. You can play with it however you want. That one looks a bit bigger for some reason. I'll trim that down along the side. And it doesn't matter if it's narrower. I prefer it that way. Okay, so let's bring back in these little pieces here. So we're going to start. We've got our stitched edge of our flowers. It looks a bit wonky. But remember, nothing in life is perfect, so our craft projects don't have to be perfect either. They just have to be 80%. Okay, so I'm lining this up so that, sorry, I'll move it over a bit, so that that stitched edge is on the outside and that our other stitched edge of our other shape is on the left hand side. So you sort of line them up, give yourself a little bit of room either side of the fold. So you line it up with the bits above it and below it. And so this is where that cutting that little bit extra off the side doesn't make a lot of difference because you've got some room for your fold. Okay, well, that's my justification and I'll stick to that. Are we liking it so far? Can we see how it's coming together? Yeah, I've turned my iPad off and on completely and I still have the black screen of death. Oh dear. All right. And so now we're up to this this bit here, and again we're going to have that stitched edge on the opposite side. That's pretty close. So the main thing is getting those outside edges lined up and the top and bottom. Okay, so that's the inside of our card. So we're liking that so far? Okay, very cute. Thank you, Glenda. All right, so now we're up to putting the front together. And sorry, this is taking a long time. So you'll see that this piece here is slightly bigger, wider and taller than this section. So the reason we did that is to make sure that you couldn't see the inside of the card when it's folded. Now I'm sticking glue to the bottom corner, bottom left corner. Oh, glue's nearly at an end. Then the very side panel, don't put any glue on this panel here, okay? If you've got Seal or Seal Plus, this is a good time to use that if you don't want to use glue. I like to use the glue also, not because it gets all over my hands, but because it gives me some wriggle room. So, let's see. Make sure that your front is the right way up if you're using directional paper. Nothing worse than sticking it on upside down. Don't ask me how I know that. Okay, so you want to center it from left to right inside that square. Okay, and you'll see this little bit here doesn't stick down. That's really important. Do not stick that down. if you accidentally put glue on it, stick another piece of paper behind it so it doesn't stick. Now, so that's the front bit. Now we've got our back bit. Now you could decorate the outside of the back. I don't think it's necessary. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stick in that top corner, the little strip, and then that piece. It is a wow card. It is lots of work and very colourful, but I think it's worth it. This isn't a card that you'd make for somebody who you know wouldn't appreciate it. You'd make this for a special occasion, but only for someone who you know is going to go, I'm going to keep this, treasure this and keep this. Okay? There's no, don't make it for someone who's going to throw it in the bin, because unfortunately there are people who will throw your cards in the bin, and so from me they get bought cards now, if they get a card at all, because I don't want to give them something that I've poured my heart and soul into if they're going to throw it in the bin. Okay, so that's, you've got our front and our back. So you'll see these, so these bits fold up like this. Okay, and so that's how it folds. So it's not quite finished yet. We've just got to do our belly band. All right, so I've used paper from the same pack, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap it around. Now you could be really particular and you could score it and all of that. I think depending on how much you've put on the inside when you've decorated it, depends on how long your belly band's going, how much you need for your belly band. I probably could take ½ inch off this, and I think I will probably take an inch off, but I think I'm going to take about 3/4 inch off this. Oh no, let's just take an inch off. I think you've got plenty. So this is when, if you've got Seal Plus, it comes in handy. So what you're going to do, you're going to hold your card closed, you get your belly band, wrap it around, pop some Seal or some Seal Plus, this is just Seal, pop some Seal. You sort of need a couple of extra hands here. Some Seal there, then you're going to pop some Seal on the other end, and about here I think. Okay, so you want your join of your belly band to be sort of hidden, so you can sort of twist it. So you can, when you take it off, you can sort of twist it around a little bit more. You sort of want it to be in the middle. Okay, so slip it back on. We've slipped it back on. Now we've got our so as I said, I've got a hand cut piece of, well, oval, which is just a little bit smaller than this. It's bigger than the inside but smaller than the outside edge. I'll stick my let's get this. get my silicone mark craft back. I'm actually going to put some glue all over this. All right. Stick my outer circle oval on. Right. Then I'll stick my inner oval on. Okay, so that fits properly in the center. Right, lift that off. Wipe any excess glue off the back. Wipe any excess glue off your silicone craft mat. Okay. Then, using some dimensionals or some foam squares, whatever you have on hand, if you've got them on hand. Work out, put a few in the center, right, of your belly band. About 3. Now you can, on the inside, you can decorate it much more than I have. You could have put some dragonflies or little flowers or whatever bling you want on the inside. I'm not doing it for this one because I don't think we need to. I had intended actually to put some ribbon around this, but I got a bit carried away, so we're not having ribbon. All right, so we've got our umbrellas on. I'm going to stick my turtle on. Now he's just been die cut from the paper. Die cut? Fussy cut? I can't remember. Been cut from the paper anyway. Some of the papers are die cut, some are fussy cut. Yeah, and I do like this card. It has been lots of fun to make. And it does take a while. It probably took me, once I decided on my papers, that was the hardest part. It probably took me maybe half an hour to die cut all of my bits and get it all prepped ready. Okay, and I've got a sentiment, and I was going to put it on the belly band, but I've decided that I'm not going to. I've got a piece of grey that I'm layering it on. Sorry, smoky slate. Let's get that right. And this sentiment says, rainy days are better with you. And it's from that Playing in the Rain stamp set. And I think we might actually put that, I had intended to pop that up here somewhere. Actually, we can still do that. I'm going to have to use my ribbon scissors to cut my cardstock. Oh well. It is a fun fold card. It's a fancy fold card more than a fun fold. I think the first time you make it, it's a bit overwhelming. The very first time you make it. I'm going to stick that. Stick that about there. And it doesn't matter that it's going to go off the edge. Hoping my head's not in the frame. That's a good thing about not being able to see the picture while you're filming, is that you don't know if you're not in the frame or not. You don't know until after. So I'm going to just glue that down there. Now you could add some ribbon, but I think that that looks pretty much okay. And you can put the belly band down, you can put it up. Look, it looks pretty halfway between. So there we go, we've got Rainy Days Are Better With You. I'm not going to add any bling tonight. I've bored you for a whole hour. Well, Glenda, when you come home, there is an envelope soon. So the envelope, it fits in a Stampin' Up long envelope. Just. Right, if I moved my sentiment just a little bit, it would fit even better. So let's just move our sentiment without tearing it. It does fit in a Stampin' Up envelope. See, this is the Stampin' Up long skinny envelopes, and it fits in. Just have to be a bit careful with that bit there, but we can even move that across a bit more. A little bit off the end. And where I've ripped the paper there, I'm going to put a bit of bling. We've got these little loose daisies. So where I've ripped that little bit of paper, I'm just going to pop a touch of glue back on the back there. I could pop a touch of glue there. I'll take my pick tool, pick up one of these little daisies. Yeah, so I designed this especially to go in these envelopes. See? Come on, stick. Pick up my little daisy, dip it in the glue. Pop another one over here. Because I've got one, I need to have 3 now. Let's put a little daisy down near his umbrella. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if I'm out of range there. There we go. So yes, it fits in a Stampin' Up slimline envelope, and they're in the annual catalogue. Stampin' Up annual catalogue. I'm sorry I can't tell you what page they're on, but yes. Yes, you could cut the tail off if you needed to. It will fit. I have made it a bit narrower, so it will fit in there. I'm just going to let it dry there. So yeah. So it won't go in a, oh hi Dawn, happy birthday, thanks for watching. Didn't see you watching. So Glenda, when you get home and you have some time, let me know and we will have a play with it. Like if I did this in a class, this would be the only thing that we did in a class, because it does take a bit of time to prepare. But I think it's a great card and it's really great. I was thinking of changing the sentiment and having it for my nephew for his christening this weekend. I think it's this weekend. I hope it's this weekend. And you might recall a few weeks ago I was doing some other things with this paper and I was making this little board. So this is where we're up to now. I still haven't finished it. I haven't got the ribbon on, but we're a step closer to where we were last time I was doing it. So we've got his name on there now and our little bits are all stuck on. So that's the same paper as I used on the front of our fancy fold card. So what I will do is I'll post a picture of this and compare it, put it next to the photo of the one I made for my girlfriend Alison, and you can see how the same fold can look completely different. I'm so glad you like it, Sue. I'm glad you like it, Jodie. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and sorry I had to do it vertically and not horizontally. I don't think it turned out too bad, but it was a bit annoying that it had to go that way. But anyway, thank you, Glenda L. Hope everyone has a fantastic week. I will see some of you on Saturday online for our mystery stamping. I will follow up where those instructions are, the clue number 1. There isn't a lot of materials needed. I think there's a card base, a layer, a piece of pattern paper, 3 tags or 3 rectangles and a piece of white. So there's not a lot needed for our mystery stamping. Thank you so much for joining me and giving up your Tuesday night, or if you're in the States, morning, Monday morning, I think it is. Hope you have a fabulous day and a fabulous evening, and until next time, happy creating.